All right, so we're gonna try this again. I'll give everybody a second to hop back on, and let me kind of readjust myself. Hi guys, thank you for hopping on. I appreciate it. All right, so I switched over to 4G, and I switched over to 4G, and I tried to close a bunch of my windows because I had a bunch of stuff open. So hopefully that's not going to mess with it won't freeze as much this time. So guys, let me give everybody just a second to hop back in, and then we'll start again. So this is what happens when you stand outside the company. Hey Eric, I'm periscoping. Periscope and selfieing. No, it's live video.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Hi,
Wait, hold on.
how are you?
There you go, Teresa and Eric.
I'm gonna go show a house now.
Oh,
Have fun.
isn't that gonna be fun? Look,
Yeah,
look how bright she is.
Yeah, I'm not back in.
All right, I'm turning around. Okay, that's way better. Awesome. Okay, so I got a couple questions, and let me go ahead and answer actually, let me introduce myself. So Rashida Clark, realtor in Newport News, Virginia, with Liz Moore and Associates. Standing outside the building, so a bunch of people are walking back and forth. I had a question from King Eric before we got off, and then I also saw another question about it being saturated with I get that a lot, it being saturated with real estate agents. My answer to that would be a little bit. Typically, when the market starts to get good again, when the market gets good again, lots of people come into the market as far as becoming an agent. Because, I mean, if you're a good real estate agent or a good realtor, the money is good. I mean, it's a good living. It's a hard business. It's not easy, but it is a good living. So I think what we're seeing is the market is continuously getting better since the crash back in, what, 08? And so lots of people are coming back into the market. So there's going to be tons. The same thing happened when the market crashed. Lots of agents left the market because they couldn't make a living. So some of them may just be coming back, and then you have new people. The other question is, how do foreclosures work? Do you mean as far as buying or selling? And then there was a previous question about city assessments. So you guys, let me just, for the new people, let me do my first tip. That was listen to your agent. Selling a foreclosure. So like when the bank has a foreclosure for sale. Okay, I will answer that question in a hot second. Okay, so we got somebody that wants to know about selling and somebody wants to know about buying. Okay, I'll answer that question in a second. So your agent is going to give you lots of advice. Of course, you're the client. As my clients, I have to listen to what they want. So I'm going to advise them, but I still have to do what they want me to do. Sometimes if it's something unethical, which sometimes you'd be surprised what people ask you to do, or if it's a client where I feel like we just aren't going to mesh well, I will let that client go. So this is we're in business for ourselves. Okay, are you on Twitter? Only One Visionary? Let me know if you're on Twitter, because I think you might have some detailed stuff that we can talk about in another area. So let me know. So definitely listen to your listing agent. A lot of times what I get pushback from. Okay, cool. A lot of times what I get pushback from you guys is price. That's number one. Price and condition. A lot of times sellers have in their mind what they think their house should be priced at, what they think their home is worth. Most of the time that is them being emotional about the process, which is understandable, but them being very emotional about the house, wanting to hold on to it, feeling like it's better always than everybody else in their neighborhood, which is not always. It's not always. So, you know, also condition. And we'll talk about that in a second. So that was the tip number one. Listen to your agent. talk about the advice. If you don't, if you don't understand something, you don't like something, obviously talk with them, speak with them, sit down and get some understanding. But a lot of issues can be resolved if we just kind of get on the same accord with the seller, so that we can kind of move through the process. Consider the top 3 factors of real estate. So the top 3 factors of real estate: price, marketing, and condition. Price, marketing, and condition. Price is number 1. If your house is not priced right, it's not going to sell, period. So if you got a house on the market and it's, first of all, if you're not getting showings, that's the number 1 indicator that it's not priced right. Because if it's overpriced, and this is a hard one for sellers to really grasp, it's overpriced, people aren't even going to come and look at it, period. They're not. People know what their budget is. They know what, hey Dewey, I'm periscoping. I'm periscoping. It's live video feed. Hold on. Dewey is.
What are you doing?
Live video feed. Say hi, Dewey.
Hello, Dewey.
Dewey.
I'm sorry, please.
I'm there. Wait, I gotta turn it back around. On you guys, Dewey. See?
Hello, everyone. And who am I talking to?
Everybody in the world.
My new favorite person, because she came to Hampton University's homecoming.
Dewey's hilarious. Dewey's hilarious. Bye. I'll tell him you said hi, King Eric. You're talking to the world. Well, I mean, you never know where people periscoping from. But so price, you guys, price. That's the number 1 thing. If you're not getting showings, if your house isn't selling, most of the time it's price. And price is number 1 because price can overcome all things, every objection. If it's priced right, people will buy it. Price for condition, price for location, price for whatever. If you take that in consideration when you price, it's going to sell. If it's sitting there, it's not priced right. If you list your home and it's fresh on the market, and location is schools, but you can still compensate for some of that if you price it right. And that happens a lot up in York County. We were talking about this earlier. A lot of people want a school district called Tab. Tab, the houses in Tab are a little higher priced, okay? And so the people in Grafton School District have got, you can't follow? Let me know what you have questions about. The people in Tab School District, Grafton School District have gotten hip. Like, they're like, oh, okay, everybody wants Tab now. Well, we're gonna price ours a little cheaper. So now people are changing where they actually want to live, because they're like, well, I get better value in this school district. And really, when you look at the stats, the school districts aren't that much different. So price can overcome everything. It's just like if you see a house that's priced as is, sometimes people really don't price it for as is. They price it for, well, I really want to get an extra $20,000 out of it, but you need to price it appropriately. Marketing. So you can't these are the 3 factors of real estate, you guys. So the first part is price. Second part is marketing. It's a lot harder to sell a house. You can't just put a sign up in the yard and list it on the MLS and figure it sold. There's lots that has to be done with your agent, and okay, hold on a second. There's lots that has to be done with marketing that you and the seller are going to work on together. So I do a lot of marketing on Facebook now. I've gotten a lot of showings from Facebook marketing. It's actually one of my favorites because you can really target the buyers that you're looking for from Facebook. So let me answer this question really quick. Hey, Cha. Let me answer this question really quick about foreclosures. You need to talk to your bank. That's the first thing I would suggest. Yes, you can buy a property after it's gone into the foreclosure process if they're giving you the opportunity to do so, and they give you whatever the amount is that you need to pay to get it out of foreclosure. There is a process, there is a point in the process where it's too far gone. Is this the home that's with that's your mom's home? If the bank wants that much money and you have that much money, you should be able to buy it, and then you can sell it for whatever it's worth. That's the easy answer. There's probably a lot of underlying factors that we can't really talk about here. But if they're asking you for $16,000 and the house is worth way more than that, then yes, you could buy it for $16,000 and you can sell it for whatever it's worth. I hope that that's the easy answer. But what I'm going to do is contact you on Twitter. Only One Visionary. I'm going to contact you on Twitter, and then we can have I can answer your specific questions. Okay? So the 3 factors of real estate: price, marketing, and condition. So price was first. We talked about that a little bit. Marketing, you got to do a lot of marketing. Most of the buyers, especially depending on what buyer I'm targeting. Like for the example, the house that I did a listing presentation at today, I'm going to be targeting military buyers and first-time home buyers. So I've got to do a lot of online marketing. My company does a lot already, but most of my marketing for them is going to be on Facebook, because that's where that buyer is going to be, and I can really target that buyer specifically. So you want to make sure that your agent is properly marketing your home. Condition is a hard one, because a lot of people think condition just means like maintenance, but condition also means upgrades. So when I talk condition, I'm saying, like, when I'm comparing your house with someone else's, okay, well, their house has granite countertops and yours doesn't. That's condition. Their house has updated bathrooms and yours doesn't. That's in addition to regular maintenance and upkeep of the home. Condition, upgrades, all of those things kind of go together. So we can't sell your home for the same price that somebody else is selling their home with updated bathrooms, updated kitchen, all that kind of stuff. We can't, that's just not going to work. So again, all of those things still go back to price. So price overcomes all objections. There was one agent earlier, she had a question. She's got a home that's listed for $598,000. She actually just walked by, went in the office. Listed for $598,000, and they can't get it sold. Okay, sorry, they can't get it sold. The feedback that they get is that the bedrooms are too small. So she's like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. They just say the bedrooms are too small. There is something you could do about it. Reduce the price. It's been on the market for like 6 months. Even though it's in a higher price ranges around here do still take longer to sell. But if you reduce the price, people are going to think twice. They're going to be like, oh, you know what? For $500,000, I could deal with a smaller bedroom. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing you really have control over: price and condition. That's the only thing you really have control over. So the next thing the third tip is that realize that the market changes every day. And so you have to be able to move with the market. There was a listing that I had a couple weeks ago that expired. And when I did comps for him, when we first listed in April, the comps showed that he could probably get about $215,000 for his home. Well, during his listing, about a month or two in, there were a couple flips that came on the market that were priced $15,000 to $20,000 less than his house, and they had more upgrades. So that completely changed the dynamic of his market, because now basically the market is going down. The market was pulling his comps down. So I usually put my sellers on a email alert so that they can get that information and see for themselves where the market is headed. The market, every time something comes on the market, every time something goes under contract, and every time it sells, that changes the market. So you've got to realize that, and just know, just because we did a market analysis today doesn't mean that 2 weeks from now it's going to be the same, or even 6 months from now it's going to be the same. Last tip, vacant houses are harder to sell. And a lot of times I have sellers that feel like if it's vacant, people can come in and they can visualize their furniture, and they can, do all these great things and measure and all that kind of stuff. Vacant houses are actually harder to sell, and they're harder to maintain. So when you have a vacant house, stuff goes wrong that would probably never go wrong if you were living there. Spiders come in, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. It gets dirty faster because there's no one living there. It just things happen. So it's harder to sell. So I would suggest, if you're considering moving on to buying another house, a second or third house, maybe leaving a few pieces behind, just to kind of help show what a room would look like if there was a couch there, or whatever the case may be. It's just harder to sell. People can't visualize as easily as most sellers probably think. They can't visualize their stuff. They can't visualize what it would look like. Thank you, Eric. They and it's hard. So staging is expensive. It's ideal, but it's expensive. So if you can leave some of your own stuff there, that would be a great thing. I want to say staging, if you get like a full house full of staging, depending on the square footage, it could be thousands of dollars. the money's probably worth it if you get a full price offer and you sell it, but I mean, it's still a couple $1,000s that you have to put out up front. So definitely try to leave some of your stuff there, or if you can, sell it before you put it on the market and sell it before you move. Have the pictures taken before you move. Something that's new on the market right now is virtual staging for vacant houses, and it's actually pretty cool. I think I'm going to do it for a house that I have coming up. Hey BJ, Eric, you had a question about assessments. How much should it be priced over assessment? So assessments are always hard to deal with because people quite often get them confused. A city assessment has no bearing on market value whatsoever, or appraised value whatsoever. Basically, a city assessment is, hi, how you doing? Basically, a city assessment is when, well, actually, there are a number of assessors in your city or county. They drive your neighborhood. They drive the neighborhood once a year, and they look at your house from the outside, and based on the neighborhood itself, the square footage of your house, they come up with a number, a blanket number that they give to the rest of the neighborhood. And like I said, they multiply it and divide it by square footage and all that, and that's how they come up with a city assessment. City assessors never step foot in your house. They don't care what's inside your house. That number is just for the purposes of assessing your taxes. Typically in larger cities or medium, well, we're in a medium-sized city. No, it doesn't dictate the equity of your home. It does not. And let me say this, Eric. Typically in a larger or medium or larger size city, they do assessments once a year. In some of the smaller cities and counties, they may not do an assessment for 2 or 3 years. And the market is changing every day. There was one other thing I wanted to say that I forget. They do an assessment every year. Oh, that's the other thing. So you guys, I used to work for another local government here for several years. I used to deal with some of the assessments. I wasn't an assessor, but I worked with a lot of the data and everything for housing assessments and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that you have to realize is that city assessments are typically 2 to 3 years behind the actual real estate market. So what happened was, I worked for the city of Hampton. So what happened when the market crashed, okay, in 2008, give or take, the market crashed and people's assessments were still high. So by 2010, 2011, people finally started seeing the effects of the crash in their assessment. So then the assessment finally started going down, but it took 2 or 3 years for, yeah, people took 2 or 3 years it took 2 or 3 years for people to see that change in their tax bill. And now people's assessments are still low, and in the next year or two they're going to start going up again. But the real estate market has been increasing for the last 2 or 3 years. You see what I'm saying? So the assessments lag the true real estate market. So I don't like to use them. Typically when you see somebody that says that their house is priced at or below assessment, that means that they're trying to get rid of it. A lot of times people do that when they're just the house needs a lot of work, when for their different circumstances where they just need to really get rid of it. But most of the time, if a house is priced at assessment, it's typically priced really low, like really low. So I hope that answered your question, Eric, about assessments. Appraised value is, there are 3 different values that people usually get confused. Assessed, so a city assessment, so assessed value, appraised value, and market value. Market value is what somebody is willing to pay for your home right now, today. That's what market value is. That's typically what we try to list a property at for market value. Appraised value is what the bank says it's worth. So every time you get a loan, if you get a loan from Wells Fargo, I get a loan from USAA, each of those banks has their own appraisers, and they're going to come appraise your house at 2 different values, because that appraiser is working for the bank. So the city never even steps foot in your house. They just drive the neighborhood and then they tell you, oh, and they, why you say that? I hope not. I don't think so. I don't think he would do that. I don't think he would do that to you. So you guys, I hope that was helpful. If you guys have questions, just let me know. So let me just recap really quick. The first tip was listen to your agent. Basic, duh. That doesn't mean you do everything they say and you're just like a puppet for them, but take their advice into consideration. The second thing was consider the 3 factors of real estate. Those are price, market, and condition. The third was market. The market changes every day. You've got to be able to move and be fluid with the market. And the last one was that a vacant house is harder to sell. I have statistics, but I want to say a vacant house sells probably 20 or 30 times slower than an occupied house or a staged house. That's not at all accurate, but it's pretty close to, I want to say it's like 26% of the time a occupied or a staged house is going to sell faster. So I hope that was helpful. I'm trying to go back through my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. Again, I want to say price overcomes all objections. So if you price it right, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the problem is, it's going to sell. It could be in the worst area. Hi, Brian. It can be in the worst area ever. If it's priced right, it's going to sell. It could be in the worst school district. If it's priced right, it's going to sell. People will go, oh, well, you know what? I'll just drive my kid to private school. What's your question, Eric? What is your question? So you guys, I typically try to go back through Twitter, and yes, I typically try to go back through Twitter, and I mean, I can use Cats to go back and respond to you guys and see if you guys have any additional questions after the scope is over. So thank you guys. There's a bee. Thank you guys for watching. Oh, thank you. As I'm fighting a bee away. Thank you. So thank you guys for watching. If you know anybody that's trying to sell their house and they have questions, or they want to sell their house. So I cannot talk to somebody that's already working with an agent. So we're not going to break any ethical rules here. Okay? But if you know somebody that wants to sell their house and they have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Please share this on Twitter, Facebook, whatever. I appreciate it. And I will get back to you guys, King Eric, Visionary, everybody else that responded, and just make sure that I answered your questions appropriately, and just make sure you don't have any other questions. Okay? All right. Thank you guys for watching, and thanks for coming back in after I had all the freezing and all that other stuff happen. Have a good day.